Welcome everybody to the Week of Wrestling Episode 1. I'm your host Hunter Chambliss and I'm joined by my co-host Ryan Payne. How's it going, man?
Everything's going very good. Happy Friday to you, Hunter. I'm trying to keep everything, on low key so I don't want to get any spoilers on Rampage.
There we go, yeah. So yes, this is the Week of Wrestling, a podcast I used to do with my friend Nico Salvi Rigoli. We are doing a reboot of it. We have 5 wrestling topics each week that we will talk about and break down. But first, we had a big Mania weekend that we didn't talk about. So let's get into our thoughts on the Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns situation, and then we'll go into our first news topic. So I'll start off with this one if you don't mind. Roman
Yeah,
Reigns
go for it.
won the main event of WrestleMania 39, and I have some thoughts about this.
I got a lot, but go for it.
That's why I'm going first, because your thoughts are going to be kind of longer than mine, which is perfectly fine. But I get what people are saying about, Cody needs a struggle. But what irks me so much is that WWE refuses to use their own history. They refuse to bring up the fact that Cody went from dashing to Stardust to now coming back, after a 6-year hiatus, to going from a mid card joke to main event star. That is his story. And it irks me so much that they refuse to use that built-in story, because a lot of people are saying like, oh, he didn't have a story. I beg to fucking differ. Even if you want to go, from Mania last year to Mania this year, what happened? He beat Rollins 3 times in a row, won one Peck, then came back, won the Royal Rumble, helped Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in their fight against the Bloodline, all the way to Mania. That's a built-in story of, okay, we need to take down the Bloodline, and I'm going to use Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens to help me. How great would it have been if night 1, Owens and Zayn won, and night 2, Cody won? And then we see the decline of the Bloodline and where they go from here. Now it's just the same shit. I'm more pissed off of the fact that it was the same Roman Reigns main event match we've got for the last 6 fucking months. It literally is the same match he had with Drew at Clash of the Castle, all the way down to Solo helping Reigns win the match.
Yep.
And it was just, when Roman won, quiet. The arena fucking just, it was not like no boos, no nothing, just fucking quiet. That's the one thing you don't want. You don't want no reaction. It'd be different if Roman got boos, but he got nothing, because people were expecting Cody to win, especially in LA, in Hollywood. You want this Hollywood story, and you blow it. I know Cody's going to win at SummerSlam, but guess what? It's probably going to be too late, because are people really going to care about a match they already know the outcome of?
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, yeah, great, Cody won, you got his moment. Why couldn't you do that a few months earlier when we actually cared, when we're riding that Cody hype train? Because now he's getting into a feud with Brock Lesnar, and we know that Cody better fucking win at Backlash. If he doesn't, we got some problems. But
I don't know if he might or not, honestly.
That's what I'm scared of. That's what I'm scared of.
I think I saw the best way to sum it up was somebody on YouTube, or no, somebody on TikTok, no, Twitter or so, shared this meme to right now Cody's entering John Cena's 2012 year. During John Cena, he had lost to Dwayne at WrestleMania. Then he lost to fucking John Laurinaitis. Barely won against Brock. Lost. Like, it was always a trade back and forth. And as much as I understand the meme and the joke there, that's kind of what scares me. Because then it honestly is, why did Cody come back to WWE if this is how he's going to be ran? Because at this point, I think Cody, he could have been able to salvage whatever he was doing in AEW before came to WWE.
He actually probably could have done more because they could have done a heel turn, have him go after the world belt anyway. That storyline. You could have had him. Hell, when him and Sammy had the TNT belt, the belt was probably more as over as the world title.
Exactly. And despite the whole interim thing that happened when Cody had caught COVID, he still put a lot of emphasis, and Cody did his best to build stars there. He did segments. He tried to use every wrestler at disposal.
He put Eddie Kingston over huge.
Eddie Kingston was over. Even though he's a close friend of Ricky Starks, he gave Ricky Starks the whole the red carpet treatment during the TNT Open Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And he made Kingston a star. Yeah, Kingston's
Brody Lee,
exactly. The Bruiser Brody squash match. Even bringing in wrestlers from different companies like Warhorse, and his bouts with Orange Cassidy was fantastic. And then, of course, let's not forget the wrestlers that he went up against. Darby Allin, nobody knew, nobody gave a crap about. That draw, which worked to perfection, put Darby Allin over. Sammy Guevara being one of the first people he feuds with on television during AEW's first year.
They had the first match on Dynamite.
Yeah, they did. And then, of course, his feud with Jericho is building up very well. And then what happens afterwards? Maxwell makes that huge swerve to make him a full-blooded heel.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, Maxwell goes over. And even when COVID happened, it looked like Cody was definitely teasing a whole feud between the Nightmare Family and Jake the Snake Roberts. But then COVID happened, so they had to bring it down. But then, guess what? He gets the TNT belt. He uses that as a platform to introduce different wrestlers from different companies, build stars. He did a damn good job.
Yeah.
With what he was given. And then people started turning on him the moment wrestlers from different companies came in because, they're going to lose to Cody. Cody's becoming like Triple H. You fickle fans, shut the fuck up. If you had not been watching Cody's first year and a half, he did his best to make anyone who went up against him look like a megastar. And then Malachi Black, unfortunately, became the nail in the coffin of Cody's run.
Which I don't get that because Malachi won 2 out of the 3 matches.
But the problem is that when he first came in, people would turn on Cody because they thought Cody's going to beat him and then Malachi's going to get the revenge win. No, Cody made sure Malachi won twice, and then Cody gets the revenge win for the rubber match.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, Cody, his runs were never perfect. Like the whole the
Anthony Ogogo.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say the whole the Nightmare Family in the factory. That split that led to him and Anthony Ogogo. And then, of course, the mixed match with Jade and Shaq, which was the debut of Jade Cargill.
Mm-hmm.
That was not great either, in my opinion. But beyond all that,
Shaq took a hell of a spot, though. You got to give him that.
No, I give him that. I give credit on the matches happening there. But beyond that, what Cody did in AEW when he had control, he unfortunately had the slippery slope of, because he's one of the guys in charge of booking and creative, the fans immediately thought he was going to abuse his power, which Cody made sure he did not. He brought in people to give him advice. He made sure that he was being good, taking things in the right direction. And still then, fans turned against him, which, once again, pisses me off. Which is why I don't like what's happening here. Fans solely are going to turn on Cody. And it was kind of evident in his promo on Raw. As much as I don't like the way the show went after the tag match between Street Profits and Sammy and Owens, that was a week ago. But this past week on Raw, this past couple days on Raw, Cody did a promo. I swear to God, I hate the fucking audio noise. I can't tell if the people are behind him or not. This is the production truck just trying to go, cheer at this part of Cody's speech, or ooh at this part of Cody's speech. No, I want to hear the audience so I can hear the reaction. That's why I like live wrestling. So I can tell if wrestlers are able to either bounce back or they can just power their way through a promo. That's how you can tell when wrestlers can get better. That's the one thing I don't like what Vince did under his control. It was necessary for the pandemic era because, wrestlers, they need something. They perform in front of people, so sometimes they need something to react to. But even then, when he kept it afterwards, it made me even more mad. I'm like, Vince, pandemic's over. Stop doing that. Thunderdome, that's another issue. But when you have fans now live in person, stop doing that. But no, he kept doing it over and over and over again. So now I stopped watching Raw about sometime after 38 because I got sick and tired. Well, I stopped watching WWE entirely after 38 because I just got tired. I was sick of waiting for things to get better, or when Vince finally starts listening to people. He never was. So when he got ousted, I watched SummerSlam, and then I watched a couple of shows building up to Clash of the Castle, but I didn't keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess now we don't know where the road's gonna go. In my head, after when Brock showed up as Cody's partner, I had this brilliant idea in my head to where they can book 3 months of a story that can be this nice little filler into building into Cody and Roman at SummerSlam. But it looks like they're doing what's easy.
They're going the John Cena 2012 route.
Maybe. But like once again, they're just doing what's easy instead of what can be right for the story. And what should have been right for the story is to have Cody win the belts from Roman. If not, do some wonky shit to where Cody wins one of the belts. But, that's not going to happen anymore.
I think what really fucked up the Cody storyline is when Vince just randomly decided to unify the belts. I don't know why he insisted on making one unified belt. Especially
because he just doesn't know how to book both belts respectively. Mm-hmm. Even during the first brand split, when Brock was champion and Triple H got the World Heavyweight belt, neither belt, he always has a problem because he's so used to like one on top. He's not used to sharing the spotlight. The point of a brand split of Raw and SmackDown being their own thing was that
you have 2 belts.
Yeah, 2 belts, so you can still have a top champion, and then maybe book a pay-per-view to where both champions clash and just. I don't like it Survivor Series, dude. I don't like that they made that Survivor Series. Honestly, that's kind of one of the things during the PG era. I like the idea that here you're bragging rights. That was your perfect opportunity of having Raw versus SmackDown against each other, and then get things back on the status quo. But you know what? I'm not going to keep talking about the past here because the more I keep talking about this, the more I keep realizing how fickle the wrestling community is, how nobody really likes to pay attention to the history, and it just keeps pissing me off. And I don't want to keep grappling about that. I want to talk about the news that we got. Yeah.
So one more thing before we get into there. I am really getting sick of hearing the word buried.
Oh my God.
Cody was not buried. And now I'll say this. He should have won a Mania, but he was not buried. He will be buried if he loses his feud with Brock. That's what I'll say.
Not just loses his feud with Brock, but is made to look like a chump.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Just because someone loses a match doesn't mean they're buried. But what happened was Cody lost a ton of momentum. He was riding high on momentum going into Mania. Now it's up to WWE and the writing team to see if they can keep this momentum rolling forward into SummerSlam. I don't know if they can. I don't trust their writing team.
Especially if Vince is back in creative, he can change something. And it's clearly after what happened at last week's Raw, he has the power to change a few things. Even on SmackDown last week, he still changed a few. He called in to maybe rewrite a few things. So it makes it even more ridiculous to where now, Drew McIntyre may no longer be happy. Bayley may no longer be fucking happy. And
the Bayley thing, I'm pretty sure is a storyline though, because she was doing that before Mania.
I know before Mania, but even then it can be difficult to tell because it's not known when her contract will renew. I mean, it's been official that. Obviously, Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, she's not with the company anymore. Trinity Fatu has said on record she's no longer with WWE anymore. So it would not surprise me if Bayley follows suit. Sure, if it's a storyline thing, Bayley does a great job with it. But even then, I wouldn't blame her She
All
could
right,
go
and
out,
one
go
more
to New
thing.
Japan, go to
Ba-
Ring of Honor, maybe. Oh,
yeah, based on the now again, this is getting off a little off topic, but since we brought up, the women's division, I want to know where the outrage is for, WWE and Vince McMahon deciding to take two women's triple threat matches out to put one women's tag team match in, and that was it. We had no more women's segments.
no.
But AEW is getting all this shit for having one women's match a week on Dynamite.
Yeah, these fans need to really, really fucking pay attention. Ugh.
I don't get it. Like, yes, we want more women's wrestling, but we want that on everywhere, not just one and not the other.
Yeah.
So with that big spiel out of the way, I doubt everyone's in the comments going to be pissed at us, but I do not care anymore. So.
At this point, you feel how you feel about wrestling. Wrestling, like every other sport, is subjective. It's not a solid fact. Like what I'm speaking right now is not fact. But even though it's my own opinion, and I feel as if it's where things are going, like I said, I will not be surprised with, especially after this Endeavor deal. I will not be surprised with this merger. I will not be surprised if I start hearing about wrestlers on the chopping block.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like, who knows when. But for right now, I'm hoping the ship can be it can redirect its course, get back in a way to where there's in good momentum.
Yeah. Let me put this in real quick. All right. All right, so let's get into our first topic of the night, which is Brian Cage re-signs with AEW. So I have the story from Wrestling Inc., who also got the information from Fightful Select. And it says that it's been reported for weeks that Cage's AEW deal was coming up and in the spring ahead of his Trios title defense at Ring of Honor's Supercard of Honor when the embassies retained. It seems to indicate that Cage was sticking around. However, the 39-year-old was reportedly briefly working without a contract. Additionally, there was some discrepancy over when Cage would become a free agent, as AEW was considered adding time to his original deal due to an injury he had upon signing. Several top AEW talent had been pushing for Cage to be re-signed. While there was some interest from WWE, he ultimately worked with the agent in the process and liked the offer AEW made him. Fightful also noted that AEW worked hard to get the deal done over the last couple of weeks, and that it was agreed to in the principle ahead of Cage aligning with Swerve Strickland on last week's Rampage. Following a main event run in Impact, Cage signed with AEW in 2020. So it's said that he has signed a multi-year deal, by the way, with AEW. So thoughts on Brian Cage re-signing for a multi-year deal with AEW?
I got to admit, it's and honestly, when we were talking about discussing which one we want to do first, we have one, and I thought we wanted to get this one out of the way. I'm thinking about it now. Like Brian Cage's his I don't think his little history with AEW, especially, it is in a way a bit of a surprise, but also but it's more of a welcome surprise, honestly, because when he first showed up in AEW, what did they do? They book him as a monster. They pair him with Taz. They do this good thing to where they're trying to make Brian Cage this unstoppable machine, like trying to book him the way he was in Impact. But, the way it was, he was kind of shaky. He was on and off most of the time. After, like, they tried to book him away to challenge Moxley during the pandemic. Then came Team Taz. They put him as the FTW champion. Then they tried to make him face with this little thing with Ricky Starks, but it was clear audience was more behind Ricky than they were with Cage. So there really was like this shaky ground with Cage and AEW to where if he can really work with them. And then when Tony got Ring of Honor, they tried to do the thing with Cage again to where they paired him with Tully Blanchard to form this four-man stable with champion at the time Jonathan Gresham. But then he leaves, drops the belt, leaves, and Brian Cage is like, well, there goes that story. And then they form this whole thing to where it's the embassy with him. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the guys he's with, but
The
embassy, yeah, but the wrestlers, yeah. and the man was his manager. Yeah, but let's not waste time trying to remember them. But even then, it looks like, okay, they're rebalancing Brian Cage. They win the 6-man titles from Ring of Honor. It does look like they're finally going to they're giving Cage not just something to work with, but they're giving him a solid foundation. And now he's teamed up with mogul affiliate Swerve Strickland, especially after that shaky-ass thing that they did with Swerve before. They gave him 2 wrestlers. Well, one of them already know who the other guy was. But it seems this is more of a solid foundation. This is giving Cage not only more TV time to be on
Gates
AEW.
of Agony, I'm sorry.
Gates of Agony, thank you. But also, but I'm going to say, this gives Cage, once again, it's bringing Cage back on television. And also, it's keeping him very synonymous still with Honor Club. So Cage is getting more opportunity on TV. So I think this is good. Hopefully this can slowly, brick by brick, build Brian Cage back up to a good standing to where I can see him challenge for either the main belts on Ring of Honor or AEW.
Yeah, definitely. So this news is interesting to me because, as you said, like Cage had a lot of issues with AEW early on, the way they were booking him, and I kind of agree. Like Brian Cage is somebody you can build a company around, but I will say I love the fact that they put him in Ring of Honor because he is a solid hand. He's someone who can work with anybody, as we see. Like he works well with, the Gates of Agony and as the Embassy, taking on guys like Dalton Castle and the Boys or things like that.
Castle, that's definitely somebody who deserves to be on TV.
Yeah, I love Dalton Castle, but he's someone who can work a lot of different styles, which is great for Ring of Honor because you can put him against a high flyer, and he can match their speed. Or you put him up against another powerhouse like Willie Hobbs, which they had a killer match on Ring of Honor, by the way, and they have really good chemistry with each other. I'm glad that they're treating Ring of Honor like the AEW's NXT, where they have their own storylines, they have their own belts, they have a lot of things going on, but they can kind of interact with the main roster, to say, to use that term, because that fits. Ring of Honor is a company with like a great legacy behind it, but it's something that has to be used in with other bigger companies, because Ring of Honor,
Yeah.
it has its fan base, but it was never as popular as a bigger company, but it had the work.
It could have gotten there. The problem was that it always had bad management involved, like trying to reshape the company and stuff. It's kind of like the best example was Impact TNA. When TNA was growing, it got bad management, bad owner. Then they bring in Hogan and Bischoff. They do this whole Monday Night War, which was a bad idea in the first place. Like everything looking back on it, I understand you have the momentum and you want to challenge a company like WWE, but the truth is that Ring of Honor at that time could have been that company because they had the longer history, and if they had just gotten the right person, hell, maybe someone like Tony Khan to back them in money, and then they get themselves a TV deal, get themselves more mainstream exposure, they could have been a good challenge. Right now, AEW, they're not a challenge. They're more of good competition. And that's the one thing we need to remember with AEW. That's one thing I hope AEW remembers with this mission statement. Just be competition. Don't try to go head-to-head with them. You can make jokes at them. Go for it all the live long day. Let the stupid community and the fans build this stupid war in their heads. But it should never be a war. Because what happens with a war, there's going to be casualties. And also, you're going to make stupid decisions.
Yeah, and I think that was what AEW is doing better now than when they debuted. Is that they learned we shouldn't compete with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
We should, try to put on great products. I think after the CM Punk situation at All Out, which we'll get to, we have a big story about him.
Yeah.
I think they really turned around to be like, okay, in 2023, we need to focus on in-ring stories, in-ring matches, and just do our own thing instead of trying to, throw shots at WWE, which I don't mind, because both companies do it. Don't act like AEW is the only one throwing shots at WWE.
No.
because it's not.
Even when AEW first premiered, WWE was taking shots at them, like with AEW.
Literally, Triple H at the Hall of Fame called it a piss and company. So
yeah, even when Billy Gunn was there, he said Vince will buy that company and then fire you again. And then when AEW was beating NXT in the ratings, Stephanie and Triple went on tweet and said it's a marathon, not a race. I mean, so I understand the fans want to see AEW's trying to. They're all taking shots. They're hiring ex-WWE wrestlers. No offense, guys. What the hell do you think NXT was at the time? You think it was just something for homegrown talent? No, they brought wrestlers from different companies and brought them in.
And that's the one thing I will never.
Even AJ Styles, you think he's an ex? He's not a WWE homegrown talent. He's an ex New Japan and ex TNA wrestler, ex Ring of Honor. So everyone needs to get off of this Kool-Aid that they are drinking. And no fun. And the funny thing about this Kool-Aid they're drinking it out of the hands of MJF, who is clearly an AEW locker room leader who's pretending to be a character who wants a bidding war for his contract. Yeah.
Yeah.
They are drinking this fucking Kool-Aid, and I'm laughing my ass off that they think that they know better. Now, I'm not trying to say I know better. I sure as hell don't. But
I don't either.
Someone like MJF, who, if he really was unhappy with the way his contract was after Double or Nothing when he cut that promo, he couldn't have. I would not have been shocked if he showed up in NXT or AEW or in WWE or Evolve, which WWE owns. I would not have been shocked if he showed up there. But guess what? He does a thing where Tony pays him more money to come back, and guess what? He gets that huge fucking pop at All Out. Then he gets that pop of becoming champion again. So don't tell me you guys know what's up, because clearly MJF is clearly ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, I'm just so sick and tired of this war shit. Like,
yeah,
like what you like, watch what you want to watch. Just don't hate people for watching what they want to watch.
To quote one of my favorite wrestling YouTubers I watch, Brian, like what you like, don't be
a dick. I
might sound dickish in my little rants right now, but that's because I'm only being dickish because community out there themselves are being dicks. But that's not like a two wrongs make a right situation. I'm like what you like, don't be a dick. I like AEW, I still like WWE, but I'm not gonna be a dick about it. I'm just angry at what's being done. But
I like the fact how we just got completely off the news topic.
I know, that's one of the reasons why I did not want to do my rants. But to wrap this all up, I'm glad Brian Cage is signing back on. Now that the embassy and Mogul Fields Union are like officially like business partners, storyline wise, this does give more opportunities for more screen time with Swerve Strickland, who is definitely growing in his popularity. I mean, when he turned heel, every like his whole chance with the Who's house, I'm hearing more and more Swerve's house. Like it's growing, and it's gonna get to where it just like with everybody who gets that slow burn storyline, it's gonna become a wildfire to where you gotta put them in a big match or you give them belts.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's move on to the second news topic, which doesn't really have to pertain with WWE or AEW, but I just love this series. Dark Side of the Ring, Season 4 premiere dates revealed. So, Vice's Dark Side of the Ring is returning for another season at Vice. As reported by Variety, Season 4 will begin on May 30th at 10 p.m. And says the upcoming season of the critically acclaimed series will feature 10 episodes. As part of those 10 episodes, story revolving around the likes of Chris Candido and Sonny. I'm sorry, not Bunny. I can't read. Sonny.
Okay. All right.
Magnum TA, Abdullah the Butcher, and Marty Jannetty will be chronicled. This season will again be narrated by wrestling legend Chris Jericho. I am super hyped for the Chris Candido and Sonny episode. There is a lot of story you can talk about in that one.
Yeah. I'm more interested in of course, the Canyon story, because I've heard on Chris Jericho's podcast about how much some of the guys loved Canyon, the struggles he's gone through.
Is Canyon I thought that was last season.
Oh, was it? No, I was seeing on a trailer that they were like it was a teasing of an episode of Canyon. Was I hearing that wrong from you?
Yeah, I said Chris Candido.
Oh. I thought I heard Kane and then Candido.
No, so yeah, but I believe the Canyon episode was last season, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay, I'm looking at the article now. Yeah, Chris Candido. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
was hearing it off of you. So,
I see. Yeah, Chris Candido and Sonny are one episode.
but you are right. That is going to be one interesting episode. Although I'm kind of curious how the Marty Jannetty episode will go, because Jannetty himself, jeez, if that somebody who could have had one hell of a rival with Shawn Michaels, that is just like a you clearly can tell everyone like Jannetty is really seen as he's treated as a storyline joke.
Literally, his name is used as someone who is lesser than an attack team now.
Which is kind of stupid because at the time at the Rockers, Jannetty was the more popular one before Shawn Michaels rose in the popularity. And even then, when tag teams split, everyone likes to do, oh, who's gonna be the Michaels? Who's gonna be the Jannetty of the two? I'm like, you know, it doesn't fucking matter because even before Shawn Michaels became champion, Jannetty did at least have some profile, had some championship runs before his
Yeah,
downfall. So
dude.
what you're ultimately saying is who's going to get burned out between the two of them. And it's
Yeah,
always the one people don't expect.
dude. Marty Jannetty has a very interesting story because he literally took the name Party Marty to like
Yeah.
heart. That is who he was. Like I'm like no doubt we're gonna get the story about him trashing a hotel room and putting it under Scott Hall's name. We
Yeesh.
got to get that storyline or um that story in this because Scott Hall beat the fuck out of Marty Jannetty when he did that.
Yeah, that's one thing about Hall. I mean, like most wrestlers, you try to rib them or do something that they don't fucking like, you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, I'm interested because I watching Dark Side of the Ring. It depresses the fuck out of me, but it's very interesting stories of like when people say wrestling is fake, but they don't really understand what this business does to people.
Yeah.
Like the most heartbreaking one was the Jake Roberts one
Ooh.
with his father, and you realize, oh fuck, like I am glad Jake Roberts is alive and healthy now because of
Yeah.
the shit he went
Like
through.
many of the wrestlers, even listening to this episode about the days of the territories, seeing what wrestlers had to do in order to just constantly keep working and getting paid, it's to that day it makes me even more pissed off with. And we didn't want to talk about WWE, but even then, just this one tidbit with WWE is this whole thing where Vince treats every wrestler like it doesn't have them as employees. He has it in their contracts. You're independent contractors. You don't sign with the company. Yeah, you sign with the
Yep.
company for a deal. That doesn't mean you're a full-fledged employee. But taking that aside, seeing how some of these Dark Side of the Rings, yes, some of them are depressing, especially when you hear people talk about reliving these experiences. But it's kind of but at the same time, I see the need for this. It's to remind people, sure, look, why wrestling's fake? Why? Because you know how it's gonna come out, or it doesn't look like something you've seen in real life. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I've seen your real contact sports. I'd rather take wrestling over any MMA, kickboxing, or boxing match. At least with wrestling, I know what these guys are doing. They're not.
You have a storyline with it too.
Yes, to be invested in. I'm not just betting money. I'm not building this big pay-per-view bout event just so I can bet money and lose it. Wrestling's probably
Yeah.
now, but the difference is I'm not betting money. I'm betting my emotions into something.
And speaking of like Dark Side of the Ring, that's why it kind of pissed me off when again, Undertaker's a legend, but he pissed me off on the Joe Rogan podcast when he said that he wished wrestlers would go back to the good old days.
Oh my God. The fact that
And
on the Joe Rogan podcast took points away immediately. And then an article coming out, Bret Hart talking about wrestlers, and I'm going, you two really need to look in the fucking mirror. Your good old days are gone because guys like Vince imploded it.
and it's like, what would you rather have? Like wrestlers, as we see in Dark Side of the Ring, hooked on drugs, alcohol, dying at, 30, 40, or wrestlers who like playing video games in the back but live to be 60, 70, 80 years old.
Wrestlers who have families and kids. I mean, the way these guys are talking about, they're emulating athletes of the early eras of NFL to where they they become they become huge stars, but then guess what, when they're past their prime, they tear a muscle, or they blow out a body part that they can't rehabilitate. Guess what, you end up with brain damage or body damage. You become a drunk, you live out of a car, or you live out of a homeless, or you're homeless. If you're telling me that's the good old days you want to go back to, Undertaker, then you clearly have lost your fucking mind. Look
Yeah,
at the
and
family you have, man.
yeah, it's like,
If that's the good old days you want to go back to, you would not have that family that you have.
and it's like Dark Side of the Ring is around to show people like the real life effects that pro wrestling has on people. Like from like the death of Owen Hart episode to the Crispin Wall episode, showing like what happens like when one mistake goes wrong, or when someone has
Or someone's not
traumatic
really open
brain
with their
trauma.
mental health.
Yeah, allows them to be open with their mental health. Or the Jake Roberts episode, as I said, dealing with abuse and childhood abuse, and like overcoming addiction. Like, it really shows you that these wrestlers, yeah, they act like these bigger than life superstars, but like underneath them, especially old school wrestlers who was around in the 80s, the 70s, 80s, like they live fucked up lives, man, because people didn't care back then.
Yeah. It's one of the things that make me mad. I mean, and to me, at these days, when someone likes to say like they don't believe wrestling's real or not, I like to take the approach of trying to educate them instead of trying to shout them down. Like, best example of someone who thought wrestling was fake and then got educated. You're aware of this. You're aware of Mia Khalifa. Yeah, she had
the Hurricane Hills.
yeah. Well, when she was on, she said on a sports podcast to where she thought wrestling was not real. And then guess what? Thunder Rosa reached out to her, decides to educate her into wrestling. And then not only did she walk back her fucking words, I believe she even apologized for what she said, because she got a real life experience into what wrestlers have to train and put themselves through.
Mm-hmm. Or like when people say wrestling is fake.
No, I know I used a woman as an example, but she's just the more modern example.
I mean, that's good. Like, to me, I think of like, there's a podcast that Chris Van Fleet was on where the guy just wanted to berate him and say, yeah, like wrestling's fake. But the one thing that I love that Chris did, he didn't get mad or yell. He explained, well, yeah, I know it's fake, but so are the movies that you watch.
Yeah.
So are, like, there's no dragons in real life, but
the TV shows you watch, yeah.
It helps with, us to escape from our real life fucking, days. And it's like, I don't get when people are like wrestling is fake, because if you watch Dark Side of the Ring or you watch these shoot interviews, you realize that's fucking disrespectful to people who put literally their lives on the line and have their entire lives changed. Hell, Stone Cold Steve Austin can barely move his neck anymore.
Yes.
And it's sad because now you realize, oh, like, these people are not just superstars, they're actual people who deal with the aftermath of companies like WWE who just chew them up and spit them out when they're done because they don't have health insurance. Jake Roberts literally had to get a GoFundMe for his surgeries because WWE wouldn't step up to help him.
And then Diamond Dallas Page, the resurrection of Jake Roberts. You saw Diamond Dallas Page.
Mm-hmm.
I love what DDP has done with this DDPY. Like, he's using this now. What was his own small yoga company or like health company. He uses that to help rehabilitate guys like Scott Hall, Jake Roberts. I mean, heck, he's helped Macho Man a couple of times. Mm-hmm. So I do appreciate that. DDP is one of the guys out there that understands the hard life the wrestlers go through, and instead of just like most people out there just like pushing them aside, wants to help them, and now he's using his little tips for everyone else to get healthy. But yeah, that's one thing people constantly forget. When you put someone on a pedestal and you put them above, you are consciously putting someone above you it also says in your own mind that you're also setting up in your own mind that the moment they fail, you're like, I spent all my life idolizing this person, putting this person on a pedestal. What does that say about me? And you tend to forget these are real people. Sometimes they're going to do something horrible that you can't accept.
John Jones, for example.
Yeah. But beyond all of that, I am going to say that with Dark Side, I think Dark Side of the Ring, hopefully it continues to keep rolling, keep running. I know most of the time they need to get like some approvals in order to use these stories. So hopefully it can still it can find a way to keep going.
Yeah, I feel like this might be the final season, if I'm being honest, because I don't know what other stories big stories they can like delve into, especially because they like they have the Tales from the Territory show as well by the same guys, and they've already talked about like the Lawler versus Kaufman
Yeah,
feud. So like that could have been a Dark Side of the Ring, for example, but they've already used that one. I don't know where they could go. Maybe, well, no, they've already did like the Macho Man one, the Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth stories.
they do.
So
I'm
I
pretty sure
mean,
there's probably some stories that's not even told a lot. So
probably. For me, I'm interested to see if we get a repeat of the Ric Flair controversy from last season. If there's gonna be a story where we're like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't have showed this.
well, we'll find out. It's all about a matter of time.
To be fair, I could see Mark Jannetty's episode going that route because there are some stories, man, that yeah, it gets wild to say the least.
Well, like I said, it's all about finding out when. Let's see how we'll see how this season's gonna do, and if Dark's and if they want to continue if they want to do a season 5, great. If not, if season 4 feels like it's the perfect time for them to, stop the momentum, then they can do that.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on to our third topic today. So Rey Mysterio said he would pitch a mask versus hair match against Dominic Mysterio. So this comes from Fightful Select. Let me bring up the article real quick. It says Rey Mysterio's opening is open to putting his mask on the line against his son. The Rey Mysterio was victorious at Mania 39 against his son Dominic. The feud between the two is not over as Dominic continues to egg on Rey. Bad Bunny, who got himself involved at Mania, has further inserted himself as he punched Dominic on Raw after Mania and was chokeslammed through a table by Damian Priest.
Obviously, sets up a match at Backlash.
Yep. So Ray said this. Maybe I put my mask on the line against his hair, which is some lucha culture. If I lose that, I take my mask off. If he loses, he shaves his hair off. That might be interesting. When asked if Dominic would be open to the match, Ray replied, he talks a lot of crap. Why not? Back it up. Ray has been without his mask in WCW, but kept the mask throughout his WWE career. Ray continues to feud with Judgment Day, losing to Finn Balor on Raw. So, this is interesting because say he does, in my opinion, if Ray does this Masters of Hair match against Dominic, I believe Dom is going to win, and I believe that would be the final match of Ray's career.
Yeah, I kind of think so as well. Because honestly, I was kind of surprised with the WrestleMania match how that turned out. I thought this would be because Ray has said on a couple occasions that his final match he would want to have against Dom.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they did this at WrestleMania, and after he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, I thought, is this going to be his final match? But it looks like they want to keep this going a little bit.
Well, to be fair, Ray before Mania did say that he had a few more years left in him too. So
yeah, I mean I understand that, and especially I would love to see Ray maybe if his last match in WWE is against Dom. That's a smart thing. That way, maybe Ray can go back to New Japan because I know he did some wrestling match in New Japan. Mm-hmm. I highly doubt he's going to show up in AEW though, but I would like for him to show up maybe in Impact. I mean, let's see what he'll do.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't think Ray would go anywhere else now. I think he's content with staying in WWE with his son.
Yeah.
What I think would be pretty cool is if they do a year like a year plus storyline leading to Mania 40, and then have the mask versus hair match with Ray versus Dom at Mania 40, and then Ray loses, takes his mask off, and bows out and retires in the Hall of Fame. I think that would be a great way to end it because Dom gets his win, his big win at Mania.
Yeah, it does.
Ray gets to take off his mask and be like, this is my final goodbye. Hell, leave the mask in the ring. Leaving your outfit in the ring. Him just leaving his
Man,
mask in the
his
ring.
boots more, that would work actually. The mask and the boots.
Yeah, the mask and the boots in the ring, and just bowing out, and let him retire. Let him do what he wants to do.
Maybe him retire from wrestling. He can be maybe a manager or a coach for the LWO faction.
Yeah,
That,
or I
that
mean,
he brought back.
even if you don't want to have him brought back on TV, because that would require him being without his mask
That's
on
true.
WWE programming, you could just have him be like a, what Jason Jordan is doing, like a talent scout backstage,
Oh
or
yeah, like
working with the
producer.
producer, or being maybe training at the performance center, working with the NXT guys. Like, there's a lot of stuff that Ray could do that's not on TV. You know what I mean?
That is true. But it's gonna be kind of weird, like the disconnect, because I have seen Ray without his mask in WCW when I was big following WCW.
Mm-hmm.
The Natural Born Thrillers, Filthy Animals.
Filthy Animals.
Yes, because I remember that moment with them, and but even then, those years apart, like when he came back to WWE with that mask, I was just like, all of a sudden, like, wait, did he ever take his mask off before? But if that does happen, then this is one that's gonna stick.
Yeah, what's funny is, like, in Mexico, that would never happen. You lose your mask, you can't put it back on.
No, that's true. That's why when Legado del Fantasma with Santos Escobar, when he did that in NXT, that kind of pissed me off, because
That's the point, though. He was a heel.
Yeah, I know he was a heel, but when he had the mask on, he was a face though. And then he talked about how Legado del Fantasma all about the culture. It really, even as a heel, it felt.
To be fair though, Santos, I don't think ever wrestled in a place like. Did he wrestle in like AAA? I thought he was just like Lucha Underground, and then
I believe he's Underground. Yeah.
So to me, like, it's different because I don't think he's ever wrestled fully at a AAA in Mexico, where like that is like the lucha culture. So to me, if he went from Lucha Underground, which does have some of the lucha culture, but it's not fully like.
Well, I mean, it was never fully. I mean, it had AAA inspirations, but it was clearly its own thing. The Lucha Underground, it clearly was like that. I mean, even Ricochet, he wrestled with a mask in Lucha Underground.
That's what I was thinking about. It could be like if he just started in Lucha Underground, wrestled a few indies in Mexico or whatever, but then came to Lucha Underground and then WWE. That's okay because it's not really big into culture. But Ray started off in Mexico, wrestled in Mexico, then went to WCW with his mask, then took it off, then came back with a mask on.
It would be funny that way.
So to me, it's like Santos and like Ricochet. I get the idea of it, and like it does work for a heel to be like, I don't need this mask. Like, that's the disrespectful heel type thing to do. So I liked that kind of portion of it. But I'm glad that they're using Ray to form this new LWO, because I think that gives Legado del Fantasma something to do that's not just put on some awesome trios matches.
Yeah. I mean, Legado Fantasma, even as a faction in NXT, they had something going. But then the moment they did not have when Santos lost the Cruiserweight Championship, and then they did that stupid thing in NXT with him before they bumped up, they were losing a bit of their
momentum.
Yeah, not just momentum, but also the fire they had. So when they did show up on SmackDown, I go, okay, and then having Zelina with them, that's also a great
Per-
pairing.
Perfect pairing,
Great
man.
pairing. So then and I did like the fact that they decided to turn this faction face, respecting the culture. And then when they brought the LWO back, I'm like, this is even better, because the moment maybe Legado goes heel again, they can be like, they didn't need the LWO to be relevant. Legado found,
Bro,
and then maybe
Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar feud would be fucking epic.
Yes, it would actually, but also I think that's why I'm thinking why with Ray part of this, if this LWO continues and becomes like this big faction, there could be instances where you can split them apart and have storylines. Have Legado as a heel faction, LWO as a face faction, maybe, and do even more with it.
Yeah, you can spring it out a little bit more. Speaking of somebody who could be a part of the new LWO faction, let's get into the next topic. See what I did there?
Yeah,
That
I knew it. I knew that
is
was coming.
quality transition. Bandito said he would love to wrestle at WWE at some point in his career. So let me bring this up from Fightful Select.
Mm-hmm.
Again, sorry about this. My phone is kind of slow.
Don't worry. I can
It
pull this
says
up on my
in
laptop.
recent years, Bandito established himself as one of the most buzzworthy competitors on the independent scene and rose up the ladder in Ring of Honor and even won the Ring of Honor World Championship at Best in the World 2021.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the promotion's top stars until they went on hiatus following Final Battle 2021. He wrestled at ROH Supercard of Honor in April 2022 after Tony Khan acquired the company. He made his AEW debut in September where he faced Chris Jericho on Dynamite. Fucking epic match, by the way. So this is the quote by Bandito. I think that it is a very important and fantastic night for me. AEW is a dream to my life. When I took a match against Jericho, that was fantastic. Fantastic night. Everything was amazing. I really enjoyed it. He went on to say, at some point, I would like to go to WWE. Not in this moment, but I hope later. I was in WWE. They invited me to the Performance Center, and they gave me a Camaro all that week to drive. That was amazing. I made good amigos. Chris Hero, I saw him at the Performance Center, and he's a really, really good friend. I love you, amigo. He was very nice. Very interesting that Chris Hero is now working at the Performance Center. I didn't know that.
Well,
Especially considering he had.
That didn't surprise me, honestly, because I mean, at first, before he was part of NXT UK. Then I think, yeah, but then it did say that he was released from the company during the Black Friday, and then, well, the Black Wednesday. What?
Yeah, Black Wednesday, not Black Friday.
Sorry, yeah. I don't really care about it, but even then, yeah, when he was released, I thought, okay, he's gonna go back on the independent scene again. But then I didn't hear much about what he was doing. So then when I learned that he was a backstage producer at in NXT, I go, well, that kind of actually works for him. He can be able to work with the talent back there, help be involved with the creative.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really happy that he made this statement the way he did, because I know a lot of people would be like, see, like, he's not happy at AEW, and he bluntly put it out. No, I'm happy in AEW, but of course I would like to wrestle in WWE one day. That's a perfect response.
Yeah, it's just like, even though MJF's character, like, he likes to do this bidding war of 2024, it wouldn't surprise me if someone like MJF in his early young career goes, I've done all I can and I've done all I wanted to at AEW. I want to see what the other side's like. That's why when Cody showed up back in WWE again, Drew McIntyre did this. He made this post in an article where he says he understands Cody might have some unfinished business here, so you can understand why. I mean, it's one of the reasons why Drew came back.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be honest, after his time during his time as Drew Galloway, he got himself back up to fighting. He changed himself completely, reinvigorated himself.
Yeah, he did.
But we all knew that his road was coming back to WWE sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it definitely helps. And I mean, now looking at him right now, if he is truly unhappy with his contract and leaves, he's going to be one of the hottest commodities out there.
Yeah, and a lot of people were saying that This is one that they would understand if AEW picked up, because he is someone you can just massively put in the main event like from day one.
Yeah.
And have it be believable.
Not just that. Also, if Drew Galloway even decides, I mean, if he does leave, he doesn't really need to go to AEW, because another example of a WWE wrestler who is completely mega hot in the independent scene is Matt Cardona.
Matt Cardona? Yeah.
The king of belts. I mean, the belt, he's not just a belt collector, he is a belt connoisseur right now. That photo,
the last ever ECW TV champion.
That's true.
He beat Rhino for it.
That photo of him with all of those belts on him. This is Matt Cardona, where he's like, I don't need to go to AEW to prove how good I am. Hell, he was NWA World Heavyweight Champion. The fact that someone like him, who never even challenged for the main belt in WWE, was able to go to companies like NWA with their rich history and win the championship.
Dude, he went to GCW and took their title.
And then did the whole Vince McMahon fighter gimmick. It worked so well. Got him so much great heat that it carried with him, and he was able to build off of it. It's one of those things where I'm like, guys, this is what I'm telling people. Well, I don't want to tell people. It's what I'm saying is that if you just want to focus on AEW and WWE for your wrestling content, you are welcome to. But if you're going to be someone who wants to have a TikTok or a YouTube channel all about wrestling, guess what? You're going to need to expand where you're at. Otherwise, those who follow other wrestling companies like MLW, GCW, NWA, Impact, Ring of Honor, and then, of course, Chakra, so many other wrestling companies out there that are not as prominent, but they're still creating shows and creating content that's recorded onto YouTube. Those fans are going to find you and realize that you're not really a wrestling fan. You're just you're not even you're not a mark either. You're kind of you're just basic.
Casual fan.
Casual fan, yeah. You're a casual fan, honestly. So,
as again, we will get back to the Bandito story in just a minute, because you brought up the fact that Impact and things like that. We do need to bring up. I really hope that Josh Alexander gets well very soon. He just had to relinquish the Impact World Championship, which I believe the main event for Rebellion in a few days will be Steve Maclin versus Kushida for the Impact World Championship.
Yes.
That's the main event of Rebellion.
Yeah, and and despite him unfortunately having to give that belt away, I do love that when I watched him give that belt away, his son just immediately grabs that. And I loved how the fans were not only behind,
new champ.
They yelled "New champ, new champ."
Yeah,
that's one of those precious moments where I'm like, Josh Alexander, get well, come back. You are definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, the Impact player. You are the top star in Impact.
Dude, he has been putting on secretly matches of the year for a long time.
Yeah, even when he and Ethan Page were tag
the
team
North.
The North, yes, they were great together. And then,
dude, the North versus Mercy Machine Guns was amazing.
I loved it. It's kind of one of those things that got me back into Impact Wrestling, though. I mean, I followed it every now and then, but then seeing how Ethan Page and Josh Alexander worked so well together as a team was amazing. And even though Bandito, I believe he had himself maybe a few. Was he part of the Honor No More faction when they showed up in Impact?
No, that was Matt Taven, PCO.
Yeah,
Mike Bennett,
Mike Ellis. Yeah. I know there was only 6 wrestlers there. That's why I wouldn't.
Kenny King, Eddie Edwards.
Well, Eddie Edwards joined them. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's it. And then if you want to count Maria, she was there as well.
She was definitely a huge voice in Ring of Honor before this went down under.
Mm-hmm. And again, Maria and the Kingdom are doing great stuff in Ring of Honor right now.
And Maria has her own little wrestling a promotion as well, Women's Wrestling Army.
Really? I didn't know about that.
She's been promoting. I learned about it last year. They do mainly just lots of small show bookings, but But she's been promoting it it's mainly just all women's promotion.
That's badass, man.
It's in a way kind of like Thunder Rosa's Mission Pro Wrestling, though. It's all women promotion. All women matches.
Yeah, there's one match over Mania weekend. Speaking of women's wrestling, that I really need to watch. It's that from wrestling. What's it called? Oh my god, these names. From a New Japan event. It was the Mercedes Monet Triple Threat.
Yes, I have not watched that yet.
But I heard it was incredible, man.
Yeah.
So I definitely need to look into that one. But
Okay.
Bandito,
Just double checking it. Yeah, they're currently Women's Wrestling Army. They're currently they're doing tours in different cities.
hell yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much from what I see. And yeah, all the wrestlers that's a part of women's wrestling it's all female wrestlers.
Hell yeah, man. I love seeing like the rise of like women's wrestling, like to the point where New Japan is having like their own like women's division now.
And surprisingly, yeah, it took. I mean, I'm not gonna say it took New Japan this long, but the moment they did do it, they got behind it.
Yeah, and it seems like when they teamed up with the owner of Stardom, it seemed like they really got into like women's wrestling, because then they had the Stardom New Japan crossover shows, which had the big return of Kenny Omega attached to it. Main evented by who was it? Kyrie winning the title.
Kyrie saying, yeah, and then that was the debut of Mercedes Moné.
Right after, yep. So it seems like more women's matches are coming out, which is great. But again, back on point, Bandito won wrestling with WWE. There are some dream matches, man. Like him and Rey Mysterio could have a great match. Him and Santos could tear down the house.
They really can. And then him Seth Rollins, honestly, like that got into some Ring of Honor, like, but I can't remember.
Dude, a 21 plex reversed into a curb stomp.
Ooh. That would be him and Sami Zayn, actually.
Yes.
Talk about Ring of Honor as well. Bandito and Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens as well. Jeez, like bring back old Deuce. You talk about nostalgia of the old Ring of Honor days.
Yeah, dude, like you could easily do a lot of dream matches with him in WWE, but right now I'm glad that he's okay where he is.
Yeah,
like there's no drama or anything. He has
his contract. He gets to wrestle whenever he wants to. Well, not whenever he wants, but he gets to wrestle where he wants to. If he wants to wrestle in AAA, that's his thing. If he wants to wrestle for while Honor Club is happening, that's also his prerogative. Or if he wants to go to Impact and wrestle, that's also what he can do. Or go to New Japan. That's one thing I appreciate about AEW's contracts is that they're not. You sign with us. You're not just limited to just our shows. You can go and book international. That's one thing I liked when PAC signed with them. Even though, and even with Jamie Hayter, so many wrestlers that are from that are part of their British wrestling scene or from international. They're not. You can come to for Dynamite for one match, 1 week, and then you're back on to. You can go back home and go back.
John Moxley has a match coming up on a super indie show.
Yeah.
Coming up, and it's just cool that like people have preferences on where they want to wrestle, just in general, because again, guys, competition is great. Don't make it a war. And finally,
I prefer the in this situation I like quantity and quality.
Yep, and we're being in a lot of it lately. So we'll end this one with the big report that we're gonna have a lot to talk about. You guys can see it by my T-shirt. Yes, the CM Punk story. CM Punk has reportedly laid out a scenario for potential AEW return. So, according to Fightful Select, CM Punk has been in contact with AEW relating a desire to resume wrestling. And while there remains a lot of backstage tension and hurt feelings, several different scenarios have been laid out that could make it possible. There have been indications that Punk is open to burying the hatchet with the Elite, who are at the center of the all-out fiasco, and doing business with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in the big money feud. Many wrestling insiders have also had their eyes on. However, outside of regrets expressed by Omega and the Bucks, there hasn't been any clear indication on whether they'll be on board with such a plan. And it says,
they would be open to it, actually.
I think they would too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would be open to it, especially right now. Currently, the feud that the Bucks and Kenny are going to be in is definitely going to be with the Blackpool Combat Club, because it definitely, from what the storyline is, it's definitely going to be the reunion of Hangman, Elite, and Kenny. That's where it looks like the story's
I have a
going.
feeling Don Callis is going to be in the back of all this.
I think Don Callis is going to be. He's going to turn on them. He's definitely going to turn his back on Kenny.
Oh yeah. But as I was saying, sorry, another alternative would see Punk avoiding the trio altogether and operating his own end of AEW, something a rumored third show on Saturdays or even AEW Rampage could assist with. But there's only so much space for the Elite and Punk to remain apart before their paths eventually cross. And that doesn't even begin to factor with the issues with Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley, stemming from the Instagram post that complicates Punk's resuming an AEW career. Another one is that Dax Harwood on his FTR podcast has been saying he's been putting ideas in to have FTR and the Elite, Punk and FTR,
the Elite, yeah,
for All In at Wembley Stadium this summer. There's obviously a lot of problems that need to be solved first before such discussions come to play.
There's plenty of time for all of this to work itself to hopefully smooth things out. I mean, at this point, I understand the hesitation from Mox Jericho, especially from Mox in his recent time with Renee on the sessions, where Mox laid out
he sounded so fucking done with everything, man.
Like, he doesn't want to waste his time with it. That's why he said, if it has nothing to do with me, I'm not sticking my nose into it. And at this point with Mox's career, like he even said, during that time, he was not under a contract with AEW. So clearly, and thinking about that, he had no business. He honestly could have said no to be a part of that tournament to win the belt at Forbidden Door. He even could have said no after the fiasco to even take the belt again. So clearly, for what Mox had proved, was not only is he a professional, he's someone who pretty much is like, I'm putting the business before my own ego.
And that's the thing. Mox and Jericho are clearly backstage leaders.
Yeah. And despite Jericho, how he is on Instagram or Twitter or sometimes on his podcast, Jericho is someone who's willing to put the business before his own ego. Because at this point, Punk coming back is not going to hurt Jericho in the slightest. But I can understand from Jericho's standing how it might hurt the other people in the locker room if Punk comes back. Because we saw how Tony treated Punk when he came back. He was really putting Punk in the forefront a lot, getting Punk a lot of TV time. And then, of course, even when it was revealed, when Dax revealed in his podcast that Punk really had no interest becoming champion after his match.
I highly doubt that.
I know that it's taken with a grain of salt because this is Dax's own words. But even then, I can still understand after that feud with MJF, technically Punk really had no road to the championship.
No.
Punk could have gotten himself a match at Double or Nothing. And then, you know what? He could have had something that at Forbidden Door. But, you know, it seems it's where the people...
Well, the Forbidden Door thing probably wouldn't happen because he still got injured.
Well, yeah, he got injured by two stupid decisions, by jumping into the crowd, which I understand the jubilation made you want to do something, and then also in the match against the Acclaimed with FTR. So I get those were two instances where that happened. I'm pretty sure Punk does decide to come back. And if he does, and this is where I'm saying a big if, despite all these scenarios laid out, the way Punk's going to wrestle in the ring is going to have to be a big...
It's going to have to change.
Without a doubt. And Punk can no longer do the thing where he's jumping in the crowd. He just can't. Especially for it's shown his body is clearly not the same anymore.
And to be fair, like he probably should have just wrestled a slower paced style. But I get it, you're excited, you want to give it all, but when you're going out there and trying to hit, 2 buckshot lariats and then falling on your ass, or to the point where you injure yourself trying to do a springboard clothesline that you've done millions of times before, maybe it's time to step back and be like, all right, what do I need to change to stop getting injured all the time? Because both times he had the belt, he injured himself.
Yep.
And
Well,
again, like
Punk wants this. I think at this. I mean, even though he is slow, he really does want to do that explosive, hard-hitting style. But I'm like, dude, even though you may have failed in the UFC, you trained in MMA fighting. You can definitely, without a doubt, adapt that into your wrestling style. Hell,
dude,
make it. If you're gonna come back as a heel, make that a part of your wrestling style. Go back to the way how you were like in EC when Punk first debuted in the WWE. He was a striker and a grappler, to where you can bring back the Anaconda Vice.
That would be great. They could put the Anaconda Vice over as a huge death choke.
Yes.
Dude.
Or in a way to where he can twist or he can almost dislocate someone's shoulder or snap someone's elbow the way he does it. That's one thing that can be done. Like
you can tell stories in matches.
Yes. There are possibilities.
And the thing is, if Punk does want to do that MMA type style, that'd be great. Because it's something that doesn't require a lot of high flying, so the risk of getting injured is lower. It's not, none because it's wrestling. But it lowers the fact that you could get injured. But also, look at what Jon Moxley is doing. Moxley has gone from, just doing nothing but strikes and high impact to now being like, I'm going to add, my striking, but I'm going to add submission wrestling in there. And then you got stuff like the bulldog choke and the rear naked choke that he does. And he's a hybrid fighter. His matches are fun to watch because you have no idea what you're going to get from him. What Punk could do is he could bring that experience, the MMA background, and also the experience of in the ring, and have a really good mesh.
I do remember when he returned, when he was in that big huge face, there were times in storyline matches to where he used a simple a simple body slam just to tell a story. And the way the wrestler would sell it made it look like Punk was using an OG move that a wrestler was not familiar with that kind of threw them off. And Punk could maybe do something like that to where he's using moves that throw wrestlers off their game. And either as a face or a heel he comes. Because the one thing I understand this in the article, Dax said he's trying to pitch something like that. The problem is that right now at FTR, they are hot as faces.
Yeah.
Punk at this point, he's very diverse. He's very diverse amongst the crowd.
I will say, if Punk does come back, though, you could run the big pop he gets, because he's going to get a pop no matter what. You could run that big pop into All In and then have him turn afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, there is some things, like, it's really going to determine the crowd. Like, I think if Punk does come back, there is going to be two plans set on the table. He either comes back as a face or he has to be a heel. I don't know if Punk can dance that line of being somewhere in the middle.
I think he can.
I know he can. The problem is that, unfortunately, the AEW crowd, the audience, the people that watch this, unfortunately, these are supposed to be where everyone says, these are the real fans, the real marks. So this is the crowd to where, at the same time, I love their passion, but this is misdirect and mistrustful passion. Because it's the same passion that's kind of destroyed, that's ruined storylines that wrestlers were involved in, to where things had to change. I mean, the best example of fans ruining a wrestler's storyline is Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti. Best freaking example. And those who just watch AEW Access, and those who watch AEW All Access,
I saw that, yeah.
Because I'm a big fan. I'm a big supporter of Ty Conti. I liked the showing that she had in early NXT, and they didn't use her that much. And then when she came to AEW, they really were putting a lot of support behind her. And the way she slowly changed and improved her wrestling styles, where she and Anna were one of the hottest female duos.
TJ.
Yeah, TJ, however you want to pronounce it. But they were a hot duo to where if they had that big storyline in 2021, that street fight against Penelope Ford and the Bunny.
Dude, that was a sick hardcore match.
That was an incredible fight. And then, of course, they tried doing it again as heels against Ruby and Willow Nightingale. but then we saw how much it hurt both of them. Oh my God. And then, of course, when Ty was being matched with Sammy, we saw unfortunately what happened there. The crowd turned against both of them, and in their personal life, people found out about, which had to force them to turn heel. It took away all
Which
the TV time that Ty had and Sammy had.
I don't know if I like the fact that fans turned on Sammy because he got with Ty Conti. Like that's his life, man. Like
No, it was the
him
whole
and
time because
him and his fiance separated
yes, it's their
already.
business. Sammy said nothing about it. Neither did the fiance. But the fans were so all up in their business, like we want to know. And then, of course, Ty was being more on Sammy's vlogs, so everyone immediately jumped. Oh, they're in a relationship. They're fucking. They're doing this. Can't you just
Basic YouTube comments.
yeah? Can't you just accept that maybe they're just friends? But then, of course, it's revealed they are in a relationship. Who cares? At this point in the business, it's clear what happened. We've seen many wrestlers that's had relationships with people outside of the business. It didn't work out, so of course they would be in other relationships with other wrestlers because guess what? Wrestlers understand the life. They understand what it is like.
Yeah, and Sammy and Ty being in the same company, you're around each other almost all the damn time. So of course
You're
you would
locker
build a
rooms, you're
relationship.
maybe touring with each other, you're driving with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So of course it makes sense. It's one thing that bugs me. And with CM and I'm gonna bring all this back into CM Punk now because the truth is it's one thing that's one thing that worries me. If Punk does come back, the fans, despite either their good intentions or their misplaced trust and passion, it's gonna turn this sour. And I'm not trying to say the fandom is bad or anything like that, but what social media has proven is that people will dig themselves into a hole and not bother trying to climb out of it.
And that's what I think. Like, some of this has to be put on Punk though as well because he could have just left it all alone, but he had to go and put out that Instagram post, and that just dug the hole even deeper. Like, at this point, we're a year past the All Out incident. I just don't care anymore. Like, if Punk comes back, great. You know, I like CM Punk. I didn't like the way he handled the situation, but that's for everyone involved. I think you can't just place blames on one person. It has to be on everybody involved because there wouldn't have been a fight without the Elite fighting back or whatever. Like, blame goes both ways. But like at this point, just get it over with. Bring him back if you want to bring him back. I'm just worried about what this is going to do to the morale of the locker room. You know what I mean? Because it's like you don't want a situation with like WWE right now where like the morale after Raw after Mania was so low that people were like pissed off backstage.
And also, I mean, even when Kenny and the Bucks did come, they did feel that the attitude, that the morale of the locker room also changed before they left. Like, I get how things can be different, and I want things to be better. I want the morale to be great, but who knows how it's going to happen.
And to me, it seems like the morale in the locker room has gotten much better post CM Punk, if that makes any sense. Like, it seems like people are like finally getting along backstage more often. Because like you had the the All Out thing, then you had the Sammy Guevara and Eddie Kingston fight, which I'm glad All Access showed that they kind of squashed that.
They were able to bury things. They were able to really put things to rest. I mean, Kingston has not been shy online on social media saying that he's been dealing with lots of mental health issues, and sometimes bleed into the wrestling. Like even then, like even the previous All Accesses were the last week and this past Monday and this past Wednesday, they've all been focused on like with Sammy. They're showing that the company. I don't get what people are not seeing with this, and it was kind of funny though. But the thing with All Access, everyone's thinking, "Oh, WWE shouldn't be. I mean, AEW shouldn't be doing this." I'm sorry. Did no one forget Total Divas? When you had the WWE Network, they had WWE 24, to where they showed a wrestler's journey building up to a pay-per-view. You had those moments where you saw Brock Lesnar throwing the championship at Vince, where Kevin
I
Owens had,
like seeing behind the scenes shit. I like seeing what wrestlers, deal with in their personal lives. Not because I want to get, involved or nosy or shit. I find that interesting. I find it interesting them, getting to the arena, finding out what they're doing, seeing the
exactly.
people in the, production truck working, seeing like hell, even that scene with Eddie Kingston and Seth Guevara just talking about like, hey, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. And Kingston, like, not saying, hey, I forgive you, whatever. He goes, hey, like, I take shit way too personally too. I don't like most people, which I love that line. He said, I don't like most people. So,
Yeah, I know. And
and
then
then,
with All Access, they have the whole thing where Ty tries to apologize to Ruby after the whole thing of accidentally breaking her nose, and Ruby taking the kind of person yourself. It's one of these situations to where, unfortunately, where people have, and of course, the premiere of All Access, everyone was going aflame with Britt's comments about Thunder Rosa when she was gone from television. When the whole thing with the interim thing, like, I get no one's happy with what's been going down, and the interim thing was definitely a booking decision. But I think everyone needs to understand this is that don't be angry at the wrestler. I mean, it was kind of weird with the booking decision that Thunder Rosa relinquishes the title. Like, Tony decides to call it interim. Like, no, she gave it up. In WWE, when a wrestler gives up a title, they don't do an interim next. I was kind of glad. Hopefully, they get rid of this whole interim thing, because if one thing proved during the third year of AEW, 2022 AEW, the interim thing really ran its course.
yeah, like, I liked the interim idea at first because to me, it's what UFC does. So it makes it seem legitimate. Where like if someone gets injured, you have an interim title match, and then that leads to a champion versus champion match. I think that if used correctly, you got a lot of storyline options when the
Yes.
champion gets back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I mean, it was
yeah,
kind of shaky when Cody first did that, but that was a legit reason. Cody had COVID, and they did not want to. Then the Battle of the Belts thing, they didn't want to be Dustin versus. They didn't want it to be Sammy versus Cody for no reason, so they add Dustin in there. So that made it important. And then, of course, when Punk was gone, that was also important too. But then the way it was done with the unification is like, you're right. If it's done a certain way, it's done a certain way.
mm-hmm.
And to really tie all this once again back, and to get myself back on track of Punkas, I think at this point we've done too much of veering away from the subject. Oh,
We gotta get better at that. This is our first episode. We'll get better at it.
So, to really get back on all of this, Punk, if every potential scenario that's been gone through, maybe there's been stuff, maybe Punk has been having some meetings with Tony in the back, or some wrestlers are really trying to smooth things over so Punk can be cool, at least with some people in the back. Because I'll be honest, if Punk does come back, Tony is going to want to book matches where Punk goes against another wrestler. And how's the morale going to be if you're going to be the wrestler that has to either do the job against Punk, or you're going to be in maybe a multi-week feud with him?
And that's what I was getting into before I kind of got sidetracked with All Access. Okay. But like the Eddie Kingston thing, where it's like, you had two storylines in a row where the wrestler is like, we don't want you here. You know what I mean? Like you're like causing trouble. And that was before the All Out stuff.
Backing up what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, how much of that was actually true? You know what I mean? Because if it happens one time, I could see it. It's like, whatever. But I think the thing that really solidified, oh, maybe Punk is like a big problem backstage. And I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying, like, to the other wrestlers, is when Hangman Page was like, I'm not defending the AEW title against you. I'm defending AEW against you.
Like from you,
or
yeah.
From you, yeah. I was like, okay, like, maybe there's something there. But I don't know.
Because it kind of feels to me if Punk does come back, that can definitely be one of his first feuds, Hangman Page.
I don't know if
maybe not the first one, but that's one of the feuds he could have. Because but before the whole All Out incident, it seemed that there were some issues brewing because Punk, like, yeah, it seemed that there was something brewing between Punk and Page.
And it's just like, I don't know. It's like, I get that Hangman, said something in a promo that you didn't like, but it's also wrestling. It's also separating the storyline from the real person.
Which is hard. It's difficult to do nowadays.
Yeah, but to me, it's like this all could have been avoided if they just sat down and talked with each other. Like, literally, what Tony has to do is get Punk, the Elite, Hangman in a fucking room and just hash the shit out. Because I think if they get that handled, then the morale with Punk coming back is going to be squashed. Because there's not going to be any more fighting, drama, whatever bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's, if they're willing to do that, just do business, man. As Kingston said in All Access, just do the business, man. Like, in the ring.
Try to be the professional.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, the companies are going to pay more attention to you if they understand you're willing to be a professional and do the job. I mean,
Yep.
So, I don't mean like the job, like job to somebody, but you're willing to go out there and work with
anybody.
Yeah. And the only time I feel like yeah, I was gonna say, like, mostly when it comes down to it, honestly, in the end, let's hope finally cool heads can prevail and let's get everything back on track, because we're 4 months away from the AEW's 4 years in the business.
Wow, we are.
Yeah.
That's weird to think about.
Honestly, I don't think it's weird personally to me, but I do understand it. I do get it. I just want things to get back up and running. I want AEW to really find its foot again, because despite the ups and downs they're having, I honestly think that they are finally starting to find out where they're going. Especially now that Tony Khan has got an Honor Club going. Because when he first got that, nobody understood why he was having Ring of Honor happening during a Dynamite and Rampage match. Mm-hmm. But to me, I'm like, this was him building everyone to get to get everyone aware of Ring of Honor. So when he does announce something for Ring of Honor, either a Ring of Honor television show or they'll have a streaming show, people are going to have that momentum going in there. People are going to
I was actually expecting Ring of Honor to appear on, like, HBO Max.
Yeah, but it seems with whatever hell's going on with that deal, it's not moving forward. So I like the fact it has its own little network.
Yeah. I will say, man, big props to Ring of Honor for revitalizing a lot of people's careers. Like Athena is fucking amazing in Ring of Honor.
I mean, Claudio Castagnoli, I mean, sure, he was always a big deal, but putting the belt on him was fantastic. Samoa Joe with his King of Television run is fantastic.
Dude, did you watch Supercard of Honor?
I missed it. I do know the matches that were building up to it. Like Eddie Kingston, he did this whole thing where he quits AEW and he shows up in Ring of Honor.
I love fantastic.
That. Of course, the oh my god, I forgot the wrestler.
Mark Briscoe?
Later. No, this is regarding This is regarding one of the Ring of Honor Club No More matches that I watched. That I thought was doing a great job. So it slipped my mind. Moving forward.
Yeah,
because I mean, the Kingdom themselves, they're really establishing themselves in Honor No More.
Yeah, because at Supercard of Honor, man, speaking of Joe, like, he had a killer match with Mark Briscoe. And I love the fact that AEW and, Tony Khan are actually using Mark Briscoe as a, kind of a side of the tag team stuff. Like they didn't put him in another tag team or whatever. Like, he's out on his own. And I like the fact that they are doing this in honor of Jay Briscoe.
Yeah.
Because, Joe and Mark had a great match, but, like, you could tell after the match at Supercard of Honor, like, Joe got emotional, man. Like, he tried to keep it in, but you can tell, like, that match meant something to him.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm appreciating with Mark. What's going on with Mark Briscoe? Because originally when Jay Briscoe passed away, it was always difficult. Like especially with what Tony did. Tony wanted to build the Briscoes as the team, as the tag team in Honor Club no more. And when that freak accident, when that happened, I mean, it definitely ruined it, but also at the same time, it put Mark Briscoe on a great platform to where not only can he still wrestle, not only can he still be a part of wrestling, but he can now do it not just for himself, but it's given like great momentum and so many opportunities.
Yeah, I'm so glad that like someone at Warner Brothers finally got their head out of their ass and allowed a Briscoe to be on AEW.
All over a comment that was over a tweet that was said years ago.
That Jay Briscoe apologized for like multiple times.
Yes, like it was from a different time period when he said that. I understand it's no excuse. It's like, oh, he shouldn't have said that anyway. But yeah, guess what? Difference between Jay and everyone else that makes something from a different time, he's apologizing for it and he's making up for it.
Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that now they're actually bringing up Jay Briscoe. They're bringing up the Briscoe brothers and Mark. And it seems like I have a very sneaky suspicion that Mark Briscoe is going to take the TV title from Joe, probably at the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
Yeah, but also what happened at Supercard of Honor, I guess this is a sixth news story. Dante Martin pretty much fucking up his leg.
Ugh. I watched that. I watched the match. I watched that spot. Those tables were too close to the damn ring, and they were so close. And they were so close to the edge. They really should have reset that, or maybe not a Canadian Destroyer, but it could have been a superplex or something. They really could have changed it at the moment.
And what sucks now is you're seeing the fucking comments again. This is why we should stop the lucha shit. And I'm like, no matter what it
That was a freak
was,
spot.
yeah, no matter what it is, no matter what you do in wrestling, you know the risk. You're gonna get injured. That's just gonna happen. Yes, I I agree the spot should have been changed, but you can't change it. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna happen. I can hear Jim Cornette fucking like
Jim
screaming.
Cornette going like this. Bruce Pritchard, fucking Conan. I mean David Meltzer himself.
Dude, fucking Conan told how you say the dude's name? Valkino?
I'm sorry?
Valkino? Is that how you say his name? The guy who fought Omega on Dynamite and
yes. Yeah. I heard Conan and Ray told that guy to tone it down. Like or slow it down. Excuse me? Man is like what? He's barely in his 20s.
yeah, he's like 24.
Okay, he's past his 20s, but he's in his early 20s. You really want someone like that who showed in the match against Kenny Omega what he can do to slow down?
And the stuff that he did is not that bad. I mean, he did some innovative spots. The table spot was cool.
Like, and he did it against Kenny, and Kenny is a professional, okay? This wasn't him going up against somebody like Lee Moriarty or Matt or Big Bill. You know, that wasn't him going that crazy, okay?
It was an Omega main event match.
Yes, and Kenny agreed to, and Kenny was okay with the move spots. So
and Omega is someone who is known for keeping wrestlers safe when he does it. And I mean, hell, even at Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor, he had a stellar match against Commander.
Oh my god,
dude! I'm not sure if you saw this match. Commander going from one end of the ropes, tight walking, and then doing a sunset flip plancha is fucking amazing.
I saw someone show a clip of that. And I swear to God, that was amazing. That's what people need to understand. Like with spots, spots are great when they're done with wrestlers who have practiced this or who are working with others who understands how to adjust and work at the right moment.
Yeah, like the 630 table spot in the Commander match. I don't think that went planned, but nobody got hurt. It looked cool. It
Yeah.
just the table didn't break.
This was just one of those instances where with the Canadian story with Penta and Dante, to where the landing was just very off and they overshot it.
Yeah, I mean it's a spot. It's wrestling. Like this is not where you should compare. Oh, this is why old school wrestling is better. People got injured no matter what you do,
Yeah.
and you got to get with the times. Like nowadays, spots and stuff make matches, and that's okay. That makes matches more entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But then, if you don't like the great thing about Ring of Honor and AEW is that if you don't like this lucha stuff, you always get matches like Eddie Kingston and Claudia, which is a down, old school wrestling match. You get
Exactly.
options. Like,
But people forget. But I think we lose. People lose sight of that sometimes when a story is pushed up to the forefront and is taking over. Then everyone's just kind of like, "Oh my god!" They blow it out of proportion. I think now people are going to understand. All right, it's much. I think like once before, cooler heads are going to prevail. So that's why and especially with Dante, he's only going to be out for a couple of months.
yeah, thank
Not
God.
longer than it's not longer than what people was going to happen. Like what happened with his brother Darius in that car accident.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to hear. I just got spoiled for something on Dynamite. I don't know if you want to hear it or not, but it could be a big breaking news story.
I mean, I've already watched Dynamite, so I don't think it's much.
Oh, you already watched Dynamite?
Yeah.
Oh, so then, I mean, might as well talk about it now. The return of Jeff Hardy is pretty damn fucking cool.
Yeah, it was amazing, honestly. And
I didn't watch it yet, but I can't wait to see it.
The crowd pop in that was incredible too. Okay.
Yeah, so like seeing that is gonna be awesome. I can't wait to watch that. So glad that Jeff is back. Hopefully he's healthy. We do not need to see him get hurt or arrested
Well, not
again.
just healthy, but hopefully he's in a place now where he doesn't need to fall off the wagon again.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no way, honestly, there really, I believe in my heart, there was no way Tony would have brought him back on television if he was not sure that Jeff was 100% serious about this. Matt himself, too, because Matt is also putting his name behind this. It's his brother, obviously, especially with the storyline that's been happening with Matt, Private Party, and the firm. That's now jumping up. And
this is not like a Victory Road situation where you clearly know that Jeff's out of it, but they brought him out there anyway.
Yeah. This was a situation where this happened to Jeff outside of wrestling. And honestly, it's a fucked up thing that happened, because if Jeff did not get arrested or didn't have his alcohol issues, that match with the Bucks, Jungle Boy, Lucha's Jurassic Express, and the Hardys, it was booked to where the Hardys were going to win those belts. Mm-hmm. But, things changed. Matt was able to at least change it around into a different character of his own, or at least work it into a different angle. But with Jeff back, I'm just going to see where this is going to go. Because right now, it seems the main story here is Matt Hardy and Private Party. Jeff being back is just another, added wrinkle. Another wrinkle into this whole thing. We'll see where Jeff goes. Is he going to take his time coming back to wrestle,
I will say, they need to be careful with Jeff Hardy, because they kind of went overboard with his Daredevil shit when he first debuted.
Oh my god, they immediately just jumped it in.
They had him jump off of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Jump off a ladder, jump off a scaffolding building.
Jump off a scaffold, not a scaffolding ladder, but well, that arena match with the Butcher and the Blade, though. I mean, geez. I understand. It brought the nostalgia back, and I loved it. But now, in hindsight, you realize maybe we should have toned down on that. But I guess now that we know.
We at least now know that he's healthy enough to get back in the ring. So I think that's it. We had a secret sixth story.
Yeah.
But
so for everyone on Friday who didn't watch Dynamite, we apologize. Hopefully, you got a chance to watch Dynamite by that time.
Yeah, but to be fair, if you haven't seen Dynamite, the Jeff Hardy thing probably got spoiled already.
Especially, yeah, social media is if you live on West Coast like me, you have to stay away from social media for 3 hours. Honestly.
Fair enough, man. Yeah, I'm on the Central Time, so I get it like an hour early. So that's the only good thing about living in the Central Time Zone. But yes, we'll be back next week with the week of wrestling next Friday. Ryan, where can people find you online?
Well, for right now, people can just find me on social media. You can follow me on Twitter, caramel_pain. It's the same also for my Instagram. I really don't go much on those. I don't post a lot on those. I'll mainly just like or comment or retweet something if you follow me, and I'll follow you back. That's mainly what I'll do. But every now and then I will post something. It's not going to be something big or monumental. It's just I'll post something when I feel like it.
I don't know, man. You posted a picture of you and Britt Baker was pretty damn big.
Oh. It would be. Yeah, a signing or something. Or if I post a photo of myself being choked by Sammy Guevara, that'd be something.
I mean, dude, you literally have photos on your Facebook from the Jericho Cruise that are fucking amazing, by the way.
I also, that was from part 2. That was from the second one. I do have photos from Triple Whammy and from Four Leaf that I have yet to upload on Facebook as well. But I might do that. I mean, hell, I'm also getting. But in the meantime, that's where you guys can find me, social media. But I also do have a wrestling podcast that's on Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. It is called Wrestling Ramblings and Rages. There are no new episodes currently right now. Myself and my co-host were working to get new episodes back up. But in the meantime, you can listen to what we have there. If you liked it, maybe you can share some comment, post and see what we can, what things we can add on, or what would you like us to see us talk about.
Hell yeah, man. So check out that podcast. If you guys did enjoy this week of wrestling, hit that like button, subscribe to the Nerd Entertainment Network down below. Thank you guys. We see you guys soon. Peace.